planning a strength workout for boxing performance.
Hello, I'm Ben from Coach Bench Performance. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've not already, make sure you subscribe so you get content to help you dominate your boxing performance. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to plan a strength training workout for boxing performance. So there's a common misconception that strength training will make you slow. This could actually be true if you're doing bodybuilder split workouts, high volumes of training, high rep circuits. You're not optimizing your overall full body strength and force production. But if you plan a well thought out strength workout, this is going to have massive benefits for your performance. Here we're increasing your overall force production, punch power, your explosive performance, and strength training is going to massively reduce your injury risk, so your body can deal with all the high impact, the hundreds of punches thrown within your training week and your boxing sessions. So before studying strength conditioning at university and getting years of coaching experience of actually working with boxers, I actually competed as an amateur boxer myself. And I know there's not much guidance for planning an effective strength workout. I'd find myself doing high rep circuits, random exercises in the gym, and just trying random things and not know if they'll actually benefit my performance. And that's exactly why I've created this video, to give you the structure and the guidance so you know how to plan the perfect strength workout for boxing. So for boxing performance, we actually avoid the push-pull, leg split or any other type of bodybuilder splits. And we just aim for most 2 full body strength workouts per week. This is enough for us to progress and optimize our strength in the gym. But say if you're going to the gym doing heavy leg sessions or doing high volumes on one specific muscle part, that's going to massively hinder your recovery. And skills pay the bills. So your priority should always be your boxing workouts and your boxing performance. And your strength and your conditioning workouts are there to assist this, so you can be the best possible boxer. So starting off 2 strength sessions per week is more than enough for boxers to see great progress, dominate their performance, while not taking too much away from your other training. So I'm going to get into what a strength workout for boxing should consist of. So at the start of every single strength workout, we should incorporate some type of movement and mobility. This is great because it's going to get your body prepped for the workout, so you can actually get more out of it and perform better in the workout itself. But then also we can focus on some key areas of mobility for boxers, and that's going to lower your injury risk and increase your overall performance. There's some general areas what we should focus on for boxers. In a training week, we're throwing hundreds of punches, we're always in that split stance, and that can cause areas to be tight. If we tighten some areas, that can cause compensation, that can actually increase your risk of getting an injury. But also with mobility, we're looking to increase that force transfer for the body. If our movement ability is decreased, then that means when we're transferring force in the punch from the lower body to the upper body, that can cause chinks in the chain and it can actually decrease our overall force output. You might question, well, why not just do a full session on mobility alone? Boxers can be training up to 10 sessions per week. So we've actually got limited time to fit in our movement and our mobility. So that means if we can just incorporate it before every single session for 5 to 10 minutes, we can prepare ourselves for the session, but while still focusing on our movement and increasing our performance. So there's some key areas what you should focus on if you're a boxer. The first one is the spine, especially in rotation. So producing that rotational power through the spine is massively important. When we're punching, especially with a cross, you're going to see a massive rotation of the torso. But if you're restricted in that spine, that's going to massively decrease your ability to punch through the target and optimize your power production. This is seen in boxing gyms. You're always told by your coach to make sure you're rotating through the hips, make sure that you're punching through the target. And then if we're limited in that range, that's going to decrease the effects what you're going to have. If we're tight for the spine, that can also cause compensation in other areas, and that can cause lower back pain. So make sure that you have at least 2 to 3 mobility drills, focusing on the spine in every single warm-up. Another key area we focus on is the shoulder. So often with boxers, the shoulders can be quite tight. Like I said before, we're throwing hundreds of punches within a training week, and we become very anterior dominant. That just means push dominant. This can cause the shoulder to be tight, imbalanced. But then if that shoulder is tight, that's going to decrease your ability to produce high speeds and your hand speed. But again, if that shoulder's tight, it can cause compensation elsewhere that can increase your injury risk. We also want to focus on the lower body and the hips. So the hips can become tight because we're always in that split stance, but hip and lower body mobility is massively important for generating that force within a shot. We already know that force within the punch is generated from the lower body, So we need them hips to be mobile enough to produce that force, to add that hip rotation, to generate that power. Also, if your lower body's tight, that's gonna massively decrease your movement ability. We need our lower body to be agile for them quick movements, footwork, pivots, angles, but all around increasing your athleticism. And then we think of the transfer within your strength training workouts. If we're massively restricted through the lower body, then performing exercises such as squats, deadlifts, our ability to be able to do this safely and effectively is going to be reduced. Another key area we focus on is glute strength and activation. So this is great with mini bands, and here we're focusing on the smaller muscles around the hips, around the glutes. These are generally the key stabilizers in the lower body and can commonly be weak in boxers. We need these to be strong and activated within our sessions so we can get the most out of our strength training workout. But then also, if our lower body lacks stability, think of that ability to be able to punch with correct form, to be able to punch and move, your movement, your footwork, that's going to be decreased. Some other key things it's worth throwing in there is ankle mobility and then some core activation as well, just to make sure that you're performing your best in the session. And then if you're recovering from an injury, or if there's any areas you're commonly tight in, I would always recommend adding some extra movement exercises for that key area within your warm-up. And then we move on to your extended warm-up. So your extended warm-up consists of plyometric and explosive exercises, so we can really develop those speed and power qualities. We use these at the start of the session because we're fresh. So if the main goal is speed and power and intent, if we do these at the end and we're fatigued, then that's going to massively reduce your actual output and performance. A lot of these we're recruiting those fast twitch muscle fibers, which are important for producing force fast, and it will also help them get activated and your nervous system get fired up so you'll actually perform best in the rest of your session. For this, I generally recommend throwing in 2 to 3 plyometric exercises, such as jumping, and these are more focused on the muscle's ability to produce high amounts of power and produce force quick. There's research showing the higher you can jump, the harder you can punch. So here, we're developing that muscular quality to produce that force fast, exactly the same within a punch. We have our short ground contact plyometrics, which are more ankle and tendon based. And here we're developing reactive strength. This is the ankle's ability to produce high amounts of force in short amounts of time. And here we're increasing our tendon stiffness. So if our tendon is stiff, it's able to absorb and recoil that force rapidly. If we think of the transfer to boxing, that's going to make us more reactive around the ring. So more springy through the foot, that means better footwork, better movement, overall faster feet, and that ability to step back, counter punch, punch and move, that's going to be more efficient because force is always produced from the ground up. If you want all the information you need for different plyometric exercises for boxers, make sure you check out my YouTube video on the top 4 plyometric exercises for boxers, which covers a variety of different exercises you can use. I'll put the link in the description. Within that extended warm-up, it's also a good idea to put a punch-specific exercise. So these types of exercises can get a lot of rap from S&C coaches, but it doesn't look like a punch, or you're gonna get a lot of high-speed adaptation just from hitting the bags alone. And definitely just punching the bag, hitting the heavy bag, you're gonna get a lot of high speed and high force adaptations. But with these exercises, they're great because we're increasing that load, so we're increasing that overall ability to produce that force quick. It's also great to develop something called kinetic chain sequencing. So this is necessary for boxing, and it's that ability to transfer force from the lower body to the upper body in an explosive movement. If our body can't work in sequence to transfer that energy from the body, then that can actually cause energy loss. So with our punch specific exercises, we're generating that force quick, but then also we're developing that energy transfer through the body. If you think of a generic strength exercise, this looks like, for me, it's something like the push press. Again, you've got that dip in the lower body, then you're driving that energy from the lower body to the upper body in an explosive movement. So I think exercises such as the landmine punch, the medicine ball punch throw are great exercises for this. And there's loads of different variations you can do. I'll put a link in the description to different punch specific exercises you can use in your training. And with these as well, you're gonna get other increases in rotational power and hand speed. So that's our extended warm up. Normally we work around 3 sets of this. And then like I said, we're working on speed and power qualities while getting our body fired up and ready to go for our main strength workout. So next we move on to our compound movements. So these are the main strength exercises, what we're going to work on within our session. So depending in what training phase you're in, might depend on what these movements look like. Over the course of a program and your long-term athlete development, we work along something called the force velocity curve. This basically goes from high force to high speed movements. So all year round in a training season, or if you're peaking for a fight, we're developing different qualities and different adaptations. For example, if you're in a strength speed phase, you might focus on heavy loaded jumps. A speed strength phase, you might focus on dumbbell jumps. Then in our strength and max strength phase, we might be working on our main lower body compound lifts. Strength initially should be a priority for boxers because most boxers have a low strength training age, especially consistently and effectively. So enhancing that lower body strength is going to increase your overall force production, but then also your rate of force development. So that's how fast you can generate force within a punch. This is actually backed by research finding that lower body strength correlates with punch force. So by getting the leg stronger, increasing that lower body strength, that's going to have significant improvements in your punch force. So let's just say that we're just focusing on our strength or our max strength phase. Here we have our compound lower body movements. We want rather a hinge compound movement or a squat compound movement. I normally find what works better is having your hinge earlier within the week and your squats more towards the end of the week. Reason is squats can be very fatiguing and very demanding. Generally going for a high range, putting a lot of load for the knee, it's got a high eccentric demand, and that can cause increases in muscle soreness. But there's loads of different variations we can do for both of these exercises. For our hinge compounds, we can use Romanian deadlifts, we can use dumbbell variations, but eventually after building a foundation, a great exercise for most boxers is the trap bar deadlift. This puts us in a great position to optimize how much load we can lift, but then also how fast we can move it. So here we're gonna get increases in strength and rate of force development. But some key restraints with this exercise, especially taller athletes or heavyweights, is that you might not have the range and the ability to execute this exercise safely and effectively. So very simply, what we can do is decrease that range of motion by adding blocks. We can use thick plates, or you can even do something like a rack pull. Similar with our squat movement, again, we can build them foundations. We can do goblet squat variations. We can even use Zercher squats, which are great because we're getting some upper body activation and some core activation. Leg presses are great because they keep us in a fixed position. But another useful tool, what you see common in strength training, is the barbell back squat. What I generally find, because boxers are tight through the lower body, is that they'll struggle to perform a barbell back squat with full range safely. So a great solution to this is just squatting onto a box. This reduces the range, again, so we can increase the force output, but then it adds that stability at the bottom of the movement so you can perform this exercise safely and effectively. With these changes, we always look at the risk versus reward with strength and conditioning. So in a 12-week camp, could we get you performing from week 1 to 12 a full range back squat? Potentially, but is there going to be much more reward than say if we're going to reduce that range of motion, add in a lot more weight and give you an exercise that's a lot more safer and with your capabilities? Probably not. So alongside your compound movement, it's a great opportunity to get some more volume in of some assistance work. So we could add in some core exercises in there as well, which is great because it can increase your core activation so you can perform better in your compound lift. And then you can also add in some injury prevention exercises. So some of the key areas we focus on for boxers, it's the rear shoulder, the neck, the elbow and the grip. You can perform this within a circuit. So rather than just resting completely, when you're completing your compound lift, you can actually get some additional volume in there. Then we move on to our upper body exercises. So generally what we have here is a push and a pull exercise. So in one workout, you'll have your horizontal push and pull, and in your other workout, we'll have a vertical push and pull. And both of these areas are massively important for boxers. So you might find it surprising, but research has actually found that overall pushing strength, so when looking at a bench press we're at max, doesn't correlate with punch force. But your explosive upper body qualities, when they was looking at a bench press throw, does. The reason is that arm momentum is one of the biggest contributors to punch force. So think of the analogy, the faster the car, the bigger the crash is going to be. So even though we need that strength from the lower body through the core to produce that energy, it's the upper body's duty to transfer that force quick. So you might think if explosive upper body qualities matter more, then why does upper body strength? But when you're hitting the bags, when you're punching in sparring, it's very high amounts of force produced from the upper body. You can produce over 2,500 newtons of force, that's roughly 250 kg. So your muscles, the tendons and ligaments need to be able to deal with that high impact and transfer it to your opponent. Your full body contracts upon impact, so you need these muscles also to be strong to deliver the snap at the end of your shot. There's also research showing that strength training alone can increase your rate of force development, so how fast you can generate force. So we need this strength to build the foundations, to build that force production before we actually move on to more complex upper body explosive exercises. But there is a time and a place for all. We'll also build in strength and stability around that shoulder so we can deal with those high impacts. And then with our pulling exercises, we're training the upper back, the lats, and this is massively important from an injury prevention perspective. So these muscles are going to be used to actually decelerate and slow down the punch. So if our upper back isn't strong to withstand and decelerate that force, that can cause compensation, and that's generally where you find your upper limb injury, such as that overextension of the elbow. And then when you think of your back, it will also work to pull that arm back rapidly for your combination punching. And then again, you're going to be contracting your upper body when producing that snap at the end of your shot. But one key issue with boxers is that they generally are anterior dominant, so again, push dominant. They're throwing hundreds of punches a week within a training session, so they get very strong at pushing, but then back muscles become very weak and underused. And this can cause imbalances in the shoulder and increase that risk of an injury. So for this reason, what we generally do is add more reps in our pulling exercises than we do in our pushing exercises to reduce that imbalance and increase that overall pulling volume. For example, say if you're doing 5 reps of your pushing exercise, we might do 8 to 10 reps of your pulling exercise. So next, I think it's always a great idea to incorporate some sort of single leg exercise in there. So with boxing, we know that you're in that split stance and that can cause imbalances. But then if we've got imbalances in our lower body, that's going to reduce your overall lower body force production. But also incorporating single leg exercises, we can get some key improvements in increasing your lower body stability. So we can do knee dominant single leg exercises, such as a lunge, a step up, and then we can do hip dominant exercises, such as a glute bridge, a marching glute bridge, a single leg hip thrust. What I'd always advise is on your squat days, do a hip dominant, and then on your hinge days, do a knee dominant. And that just makes sure that you're not adding increased volumes in that one session in one area. Then we can pair this with a rotational strength exercise. So when I completed my master's degree at university, I assessed some of the biggest contributors to punch power. And I found that rotational strength was one of the biggest. So this is the oblique's ability to produce high amounts of force in that rotational movement. You can see why this has the transfer to boxing, because punches, especially the cross or the hooks, massively rely on that torso rotation. But then also with research finding that punch power is produced from the lower body. If that core is weak, then it's not going to be able to transfer that energy from the lower body to the upper body, and that can actually cause energy loss and reduce punch power. So with our rotational exercises, there's different pillars what we can focus on. I'd always advise starting on anti-rotational exercises, that is resisting rotation, such as pull-off press variations or isometric rotations where we're producing max force. And this is key because we're resisting force, so it improves the overall stability of the trunk before we move on to more complex exercises. I like to use the analogy of building a house. If you're building a house, you put the bricks down first and you're not going to start from the roof. And this is going to allow us to get more out of our core exercises as we advance. Then with rotation, we move on to rotational strength exercises, and that's strength through a range of motion. We can use different variations with this, such as cable rotations, we can use wood chops, and then here we're increasing our force production, but from a full range of motion. That's going to increase strength of the obliques and overall muscularity. And then finally we can move on to our rotational power movements. These are exercises such as your medicine ball rotational throws. These are best when we get in closer to a fight, and then when we've built those initial foundations with our stability and within our strength. And this is increasing the core's ability to produce and generate that rotational power in a fast, explosive movement. At the end of your workout, I think it's always great to add in a core circuit. So there's some great research by Boxing Science. If you've not already, make sure you check them out. They're one of the leaders in the world in strength and conditioning for boxing. I've actually been fortunate enough to work with them over the past few years. But their research basically found the more core muscle mass you have, the harder you'll punch. This supports my findings with that rotational strength correlating with punch force. And obviously if you've got more core muscle mass, you can produce more rotational power, but also with that energy transfer through the body. So if your core is just overall stronger, and that's going to be strong enough to deal with that force when it's transferring from the legs to the upper limb. But then your core is also going to play a vital role in producing that snap up on impact. As the hand meets the target, the body braces and stiffens to deliver force to your opponent. So if we have more core tension and more core muscle mass, that's going to help you optimize your force delivery. So we'll see commonly in boxing gyms, boxers doing hundreds of sit-ups, hundreds of crunches, and building that strength endurance of the core. But ideally, what we want to include is loaded and weighted core exercises. Just the same as if you're wanting to get stronger from your lower body, you wouldn't do hundreds of reps of bodyweight squats. We need to add load to that, and the core is the exact same. So we need weighted core exercises to build that strength, to increase that muscle mass and increase that stability of the core. But then the core is also the foundation of all movements. It's the trunk, it's in the middle of your body. So that core strength and that core stability is going to make you an all-round better athlete and allow you to execute explosive movements to your best ability. With core training, there's some key areas we need to train. So we train the core in anti-extension. This is resistant extension. When we're doing our generic sit-ups, crunches, that trains the outer core muscles. But by training the core in anti-extension, we're training the transverse abdominals. These are the deeper core muscles. These are commonly undertrained in boxers and they enhance your overall core strength and stability. This is also important for reducing that lower back pain, because generally if we're weak in resisting that extension of the spine, then your lower back is going to take over. So we can do exercises like dead bugs, loaded dead bugs, weighted leg lowers, ab wheel rollouts, and that's going to train the deeper core muscles. We still want to train that hip flexion as we do with our sit-ups and crunches, but we want to try and train this with a neutral spine. This means we can increase our core strength without adding any strain for the lower back. So we can do exercises such as straight arm, straight leg sit-ups, we can add weights, dumbbells, and some other great exercises, or exercises like hanging leg raises, or hanging knee raises are a little bit easier. And another key area we need to focus on with the core is training it in anti-lateral flexion. So lateral flexion is side bending. So here we're resisting that and keeping it nice and upright. The exercises, what we can use for this is landmine rotations, we can use single arm farmer's carries, we can use other marching variations, but here generally resisting force on one side to keep upright. This is gonna increase that oblique strength and activation, which is great, again, because the obliques contribute towards rotational power, but then also we're increasing that overall strength and stability of the core. This is helping us stay upright, maybe when we're throwing combinations, when we're moving, making sure that our core's got the stability where we're not over bending to the side when we might not want to, and then can also decrease any likeliness of compensation through the lower back. So with your core circuit at the end, you can choose one key core exercise from each of these core training pillars. If you've got the time and the capacity, you can always add in injury prevention circuits. So your injury risk is going to reduce anyway, just from full body strength training. But say if you've got a specific area what you need to focus on and develop, or if you're recovering or got a history of previous injuries, this might be a good idea. So with our injury prevention circuits, we focus on the neck. That's that neck's ability to being able to absorb that impact when taking shots in boxing. The rear shoulder, increasing that overall shoulder strength and stability is important for reducing that injury risk. And again, we're very anterior dominant through the front of our shoulder, so we're decreasing that imbalance. And then grip, obviously hand injuries are going to be common within boxing because of all the impact within our training. And your grip will develop anyway, just from picking up heavy dumbbells, picking up heavy barbells, but then we can increase that volume with some isolated grip work. But if you don't have the time and the capacity to add in an injury prevention circuit, you can also integrate these exercises at the end of your boxing or before your conditioning workout. So there's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below. I'm going to add in a template as well, what you can use. Then all you need to do is fill in specific exercises for your needs into this template. So you're no longer going into the gym and doing random exercises or random workouts, and you've got a clear structure and plan. So you can execute this to your best ability and get the most out of your performance. It would be massively appreciated if you like the video and subscribe to the channel to keep updated with more content to help you enhance and dominate your boxing performance. Thanks for watching.
The War Ready Strength and Conditioning Program, the ultimate program to get you fighting fit in just 14 weeks. Planning your own strength conditioning for boxing can be so overwhelming. I've literally been there myself before, and I would just find myself doing random exercises in the gym, and I'll be always training hard, but not necessarily training smart. Look at those legs, look how skinny they are. Since then, I've been fortunate enough to invest heavily into my education, learning the science behind boxing, and I've been fortunate enough to work with over 100 boxers worldwide. This program gives you the guidance and the tools you need to take charge on your strength conditioning and know what it really feels like to be war ready. So this is on the Coach Bench Performance app. On here, you'll get access to 4 different phases. experiencing a variety of different exercises and adaptations over the course of the program. It even includes a tapering strategy what you can use on fight week. Every single exercise you see on the program has a clear video to demonstrate it with extra descriptions so you understand what it's working and how to execute it perfectly. Through the app, we can also track and log all of our progress. But it's not just the exercises yourself you get. With every single phase and program, there's a comprehensive breakdown video that helps you understand the science behind the program and how to execute it to your best ability. Alongside this, there's other detailed educational resources to enhance your knowledge as an athlete. You'll see PDFs explaining the science and the research behind your program itself, and there's various different workshops. At the start of your training program, we'll do a combat performance assessment. This is when we put you through a series of different tests that are related to boxing performance, and then we can compare you to the average boxer. You can also retest at the end of the program and see your improvements. This program covers everything from mobility, strength training. We've got plyometric, high intensity conditioning methods, injury prevention strategies, and much more. So this program's for anybody that's tired of having no guidance within the training, tired of doing random stuff and random exercises, and wants to take their boxing performance to the next level. Make sure you click the link in the bio.